Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 3 of DIY Technical Design. In this episode, we're going to be talking all about size charts and grading. Alrighty, before we can move on to creating our own size chart, we first need to identify what our customer body type is. Are you dressing for someone who's athletic, someone who is younger, maybe a juniors or children's style? Determine what your ideal customer body type is, and then determine what your ease over body is for your garment. Is your garment going to be fitted, or is it going to be loose? Is it a bodycon dress, or is it a loose fitted sweatshirt for young boys? Now that you've determined your ideal customer body type and your ease over body, we can move into creating our very own size chart. Your size chart is where you're going to list out all of the measurements that line up with your size set. Your size chart has two main functions, to be used both publicly and internally. Your public measurements that you post on your website are for your customers to identify what size they fit within. Usually this is characterized by 4 main measurements, which are the bust, waist, hip, and height. However, if you're creating something a little bit more specific, like bottoms, you might include the inseam as well. Your internal size chart will have a lot more measurements on it and will help to guide you in creating your points of measure so that all of your sizes are consistent across styles. The fashion industry does not have any size standards. That's why oftentimes you will fit into multiple different sizes across brands. It's important to look at the trends within the category that your garment fits within and across your competitors, but you can also create the sizes however you want. Lululemon is a great example of this, where they have created their very own sizing and encourage their customers to get educated about what that sizing means and what sizing they fit into. This is a great way to build a customer base and to build a community around your brand, because instead of having your customers compare themselves to other brands where they fit in a certain size and being like, why don't I fit in this size in this brand, they are able to just remove themselves from thinking about other brands and just focus on, okay, what's my size in your brand? To create your size chart, you'll first need to do a little bit of research. Start by compiling a list of all of the size charts that you can find among your competitors on their website. Find the average of all of these competitors. This will give you a pretty good idea of what the standard is among your ideal customer body type. You can also take a look at what the measurements are for standard fit forms in the industry. Just do a Google search or go to places like the Shop Company and take a look at what their size guide looks like. Comparing the measurements from a fit form size guide can give you a good idea of where you may need to adjust your size chart. Now that you have a good standard for the industry trends, you can start making adjustments based on your ideal customer body type. Make any small adjustments, and you can also take a look at real-life fit models or even fit forms to compare and contrast the numbers that you've come up with and make any small adjustments from there. Your size chart can just be created as a basic table. Using programs like Word, Excel, Photoshop, Illustrator, those can all be great options to add a little bit more branding to it, especially if you'll be using it on your website. Now that we've created our size chart, we can move into grading. Grading is just the difference between sizes in your size chart. So from small to extra small, is it a 1-inch difference, 2-inch difference? That's what your grade is. For your public size chart, it's going to be a pretty consistent grade. Usually it's like 1 inch or something along those lines, and it's just more simplified in order for your customers to be able to identify what size they fit into. However, grading is a lot more complicated than that, and it can be different between every single size. It can be really inconsistent, and it's style and fabric specific. It can get especially complicated at the lower and higher ends of the size chart because the body doesn't grow consistently. A smaller waist size doesn't necessarily mean a shorter height, and vice versa. So to find your grade, all you need to do is find the difference between the sizes in your size chart. In order to create a consistent grading method, you'll need to learn a little bit more about the trends for sizing. There are companies who are dedicated to that kind of research, which ASTM International is one of them, or you can do a little bit of your own research, again, just looking at other companies' size charts or fit forms, live fit models. Those are all great ways to determine what the grading trends are for your specific industry. Keep in mind that your size chart doesn't have to be perfect right away. As you move through development or even after you start selling, get some customer feedback, get some fit feedback from your fit models or other people on your team, ask a friend, and you can adjust your size chart from there. So it doesn't have to be a document that can't be changed. It can totally be adjusted as you move through the development cycle. To make this a little bit easier, you can create a template that is style or fabric specific. You can see how I implement this in episode 1, the tech pack tutorials that I show. You can see how I set up my points of measure so that my grade is laid out and I can compare it consistently across all of my points of measure. You can just copy this same format and use it for different fabric types or style types. For example, you could do one for men's knits and then one for men's outerwear, which would directly correlate to the differences in the type of fabric. I know that this method takes a lot of research, a lot of time, but doing all this work up front to research your competitors and develop your size chart and figure out what your grading is a really good way to start out so that you have consistent fit going forward. If you want to save some time and skip some of that research, I do have some standard size chart templates available on my website that do include the grade, and I'll have those linked below in the description. As always, I have a full blog post that goes into a little bit more detail. I have an additional section that has information about fit models, fit forms, and blocks, and you can find that full blog post linked below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for today. If you have any questions, of course, leave a comment. Please like, subscribe, follow, share with your friends, and happy DIYing!